Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Century Mile for the Derby preview workouts here this morning. Horses are coming on to the racetrack, and an absolutely beautiful Saturday morning for the Derby workouts. Yeah, beautiful day to be galloping some 3-year-olds that we'll be looking at 1 week into the future for the 97th running of the Canadian Derby. Also have some runners from the Century Casino Oaks that are lined up this morning as well to do a couple of workouts and some gallops this morning.
Taking place on Canadian Derby Day. Of course, a $200,000 Grade 3 Canadian Derby, the $100,000 Century Casino Oaks, the $100,000 Dale the Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare, and the $75,000 Northlands Distaff. I believe if I read our notes correctly, we should be able to see Big Hug out there today.
And usually Big Hug is one of the only contenders for the Northlands Distaff, but Chi Time may be one to consider after beating the boys just a couple of weeks ago in the Century Mile debut. Hopefully we'll get to see her this morning as well.
And boy, did she make that race. She made an impression in that race, let's just say. A bit of some equipment malfunctions, but she still prevailed. We also have Don't Give Up the Fight. Should be coming in from Assiniboia, Diodoro trainee. We're also looking to see the Diodoro trainee Need the Purse, who's nominated for the Canadian Derby, out here shortly as well. Looks like we're getting a look at who we believe is Helio, who will be one of the contenders in this year's Canadian Derby. If I'm not mistaken, looks like Amadeo Perez is aboard. He just got his 100th win yesterday. I think he won 3 yesterday.
100 times 10.
Oh, 100 times 10. Oh my goodness. 1,000. 1,000. I missed a pretty important zero there.
But then it quickly 1,001 right after.
Yeah.
It was definitely a heck of a Friday night for Amadeo Perez. Looks like he's got a handful on Helio there. as they're just entering the backstretch with the red blinkers, purple cap.
Now, of course, we are a week out from Canadian Derby Day, so we don't want them to go too hard here, but it is 1.25 miles they're going to be running, so I think a gallop out is a nice thing to see, that they finish strong so they can handle the distance. Helio's one that I think has been just waiting and waiting for more distance.
Yeah, especially if he's got something to run into. Definitely going to like the 1.25 mile distance, which is key for the 3-year-olds. We've seen some horses that have been based here do really good. Sometimes with these shippers, you never know how they're going to run on the big track, especially for the first time.
Helio's just coming up to finish his work in front of us. Finishing out that work nicely for Helio. We've also got some eyes on Son of a Ghost, a Gonzalo Anderson trainee. He'll be looking to pick up a work just shortly. Of course, Gonzalo Anderson also having himself quite the season. I believe he's, at least going into yesterday, he was still a 10 ahead in the trainer standings. He also has Playful nominated in both the Canadian Derby and the Century Casino Oaks. She's been an absolutely incredible filly. Really fun to watch this year.
Yeah, definitely going to be one of the favorites, I believe, in the Century Casino Oaks. And she's going to like the extra distance as well. She's beat the horses that are nominated for the Century Casino Oaks this year. And maybe we'll get to see her this morning as one of the horses that are, like you said, crossed over for the 97 Canadian Derby. She's also nominated in there as well.
On the white.
Halfway through that first turn on the inside.
We just saw Magic Strikes again pass in front of us for his work this morning. It's a little bit busy. We did have a very foggy day a couple days ago that might have delayed a couple workers, but Dave Nicholson has had some success with a couple of Churchill Downs horses that he's acquired, Magic Strikes again being one of them. Did technically run second the last out, was disqualified, placed last, but that was his first start over the Century Mile track. Of course, stablemate Tism is going to be one of the possible favorites in the Canadian Derby after a nice win in the Count Latham just a couple weeks ago, just getting ahead of Big Curl. It's a busy morning out there. Western Warrior looks to be heading back to the barn now. dark gray for Dino Condolinos. Of course, your Manitoba Derby winner. There are a lot of horses nominated for the Canadian Derby that came up by way of the States. Kind of some interesting past performance lines. This is one of them. He won, I think, 3 starts in a row down at Oaklawn Park. Very convincingly, too. First start over Canadian soil was a winning one. The second place finisher, the third place finisher in the Manitoba Derby, the fourth place finisher, they should all be in the Canadian Derby field. Of course, we will know for sure on Monday. So Monday will be entries, post position draws for the Canadian Derby. We're going to do it in the evening, so doors open at 5:30. Post position draws start around 6. We'll have some live music from Quinn River. And then we'll be able to see what we got and start our handicapping, because we need to get that pick 4 and pick 5.
Yeah, that always loaded pick 4 and pick 5 Derby sequence. Most of the time, all stakes action, but like you said, nonetheless, Western Warrior just coming off the racetrack. Manitoba Derby winner, I think is going to be tough in the Canadian Derby if he can get the right trip. He definitely had the trip in the Manitoba Derby, nearly the rail all the way throughout, but got the wobbles a little bit late. Going to be some very interesting horses to go against here. Even Quarry comes second, almost beat him. He's also nominated for the 97 Canadian Derby. If that one can get a run, that's the one I don't think I'll have my eye on.
But you know what? I think Western Warrior really showed that he can handle some pressure. He sort of got stuck a little bit along the rail throughout that race, but still kept on, finished pretty strong. I'm really curious to see what the post position draws bring too. I mean, we've got a big track, but it's can kind of dictate how the race might go. Of course, we'd like to wish a good morning to those joining us on track today. See a couple people down along the rail this morning. We will also have breakfast in the finish line starting at 8:30. But if you're not able to join us this morning, we do have a live stream available on our YouTube page. You can follow along there. Getting a look at our schedule of events for the week, as well as mentioned post position draws, will be taking place on Monday for the 4 major stakes races on Canadian Derby Day. We do also have a couple 2-year-old stakes on the Friday prior to, and honestly, I mean, I love Derby Day. The Friday before Derby is always a fun one too, but we'll have live racing starting at 6:15, the AQHA Challenge Championship, a fantastic quarter horse stakes race. That's always a fun one. The Princess Margaret for the 2-year-old fillies and the Canadian Juvenile for the 2-year-old boys. And of course, the 4 stakes on Canadian Derby Day. We're also pleased to partner with the H. Roy Backstretch Foundation to host the golf tournament coming up this Thursday at Red Tail Landing, just right next door. We can actually, from the booth, see over into the golf course. A couple people already on the course. Beautiful morning for some golf, but I think it's a better morning for some morning training.
Always a beautiful morning for some workouts here at the mile. And horse coming off the racetrack shortly here. Son of a Ghost just finishing up a 5/8 work. He's on the rail there with trainer Gonzalo Anderson. Maybe you want to consider in this year's 97th Canadian Derby.
The one we are getting a look at right now is trainer Marvin Buffalo, who does out there galloping his own horses. Relatively small barn, but they've seen success since coming in from Assiniboia. There's Son of a Ghost and Gonzalo Anderson on the pony.
Yeah, Son of a Ghost definitely made a splash in the first couple of starts here at Century Mile. Jumped up to Stakes Company and Stakes Place with a nice third place finish against rivals that could be running in the 97th Canadian Derby. The question, like for the most of these 3-year-olds, is the distance a mile and a quarter for the Canadian Derby.
Yeah, he was purchased, I believe, for about $22,000 out of the CTHS Ontario sale by Curtis Landry. Curtis always has a fantastic eye for picking out some of those horses, so he will be facing some tougher in the Canadian Derby. Should he enter and draw in, of course. 17 nominees. We've only got the 12 spots. I believe 2 also eligibles, but definitely a fun one to see. Of course, the CTHS Alberta sale is coming up on September 18th, I want to say, over in Red Deer, so that's always a fun time to kind of go through and see your hopeful future champions. All right, it looks like we have eyes on a mare who doesn't need much of an introduction, but we'll still introduce you to her.
Yeah, Big Hug now on your screen, and she's looking to capture the Northlands Distaff Handicap. She's been getting some tough customers the last couple of years, and maybe the toughest of all in this one, nominated Cheat Cheat Time. And Big Hug probably going to be your top 2 in the market for the Northlands Distaff if they enter.
The Distaff has kind of been a bit of a funny one. I mean, we've had some pretty dominant mares go through their careers. Infinite Patience, of course, won the Distaff, 4 times in a row? Of course, Big Hug steps in here as one of the commanding older mares, but she has just been such a cool horse to watch through her career. I mean, she started out winning as a 2-year-old. She was a 2-year-old filly of the year, 3-year-old filly of the year, older mare. So she has just done an amazing job. And I mean, I think she was purchased for just under $2,000, but here she is picking up her work with Rafael Zentino Jr., regular jockey aboard.
Yeah, usually you see horses maybe peak at their 3-year-old campaign after becoming a 2-year-old champ, but Big Hug, she just keeps on going. Made that trip down to Kelly, too, and a couple of in-the-money finishes and some stake races down there. Dirt, turf, doesn't matter. Big Hug is always eating up the racetrack.
34 lifetime starts. 18 of them have been winners. She's just making this look nice and effortless. Rafael Zentino Jr. barely having to move, just letting her move out comfortably. Nice little tune-up before the big race next week. She's so versatile, too. They don't usually run her too short, but I think she's won at pretty much every distance she's run at. Now, the one thing about watching morning trading is that they don't have their saddle cloths or their regular jockeys aboard, so we do have a correction that was not Son of a Ghost. That was Playful that we did just see earlier. We were chatting about her, though, in the same breath. She's been a really cool horse. Nominated for both the Century Casino Oaks and the Canadian Derby. She's proved she could run against the girls no problem at all. I'd be curious to see if they're going to put her in the Derby, but I would expect that she'll most likely go into the Oaks. So again, a little bit later, we will see Son of a Ghost. We talked up him quite a bit, so we'll keep an eye out for him. But again, just that correction. It was Playful that was out for Gonzalo Anderson. You know what? As we sit up here and we watch the horses out on the track this morning, we do have to give some acknowledgement to our clockers as well, because what an incredible job they do spotting these horses, clocking these horses. It's been a pretty busy morning. As we mentioned, we had quite a bit of heavy fog, so a couple horses maybe missing some works a little bit earlier this week, so they're getting things done. But we've got Huey Houston and Rob Kingston up here today. Tyler Walker, I believe, is on the backside helping send some horses out today. But they do a fantastic job at what they do. Getting a look at Javier coming back. We did see him on the screen having a nice open gallop. This is a really cool horse. I mean, he made his first 3 career starts were back-to-back-to-back winners. And I think in probably all 5 of his starts, he has not had a very great trip. And he still has managed to find the winner's circle.
Yeah, one of those horses that definitely get headstrong in the early part of the races, but like you said, for his 3 starts, it was much the best. I think this horse could like the distance as well. He just needs to get settled in the first part of the race, maybe not over-race, because it is a long trip, almost 2 minutes you're going for. And going against 11 horses is tough to go against as well, especially for horses that are going against 4 or 5 horse fields. All of a sudden, you're in the middle of the gate and you got 5 horses on each side. Could be a little bit tough for the 3-year-olds, but Javier looking absolutely great on the racetrack this morning.
One of those wins, of course, was the Western Canada Stakes. And an interesting thing about him is that he is blind in one eye. So they do nickname him Red in the barn after the famous Secretariat's jockey, Red Pollard, but hasn't seemed to really hinder him. Used to seeing him with the blinkers on in the races. He's going without them in the morning. He's accompanied by pony When the Doves Cry on the way back in Devonstead. This is also a cool pony in himself. He's a former racehorse and he went on to a bit of a chuck wagon career, and now he's in his first year as a pony doing a fantastic job. I think the interesting thing too with Javier is he is one horse who does have versatility in his style. Again, Javier was acquired through the Fasig-Tipton digital sale. I believe they picked him up for only $16,000 by Practical Joke, who, I mean, don't quote me on it, but I want to say stands for somewhere around the $70K mark. So honestly, a steal of a deal on him. Maybe that was because of the eye, but really, he's been doing fantastic. Just a really cool horse to watch. And wishing a good morning to those streaming on YouTube this morning as well, if you weren't able to make it to the track. Catch our live feed on YouTube. We will also be streaming our post position draws on Monday on our YouTube channel as well. So if you're not able to make it in person and you want to first look at the Canadian Derby, you can make sure you head to our YouTube channel. You can just search Century Mile on YouTube, or we'll have the link up on our Facebook page as well. We do recommend following us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for all of the latest updates. And a reminder, if you're joining us on track this morning, an absolutely beautiful morning. So first, thank you for coming out for the morning training. We do have a breakfast being, well, it's available in the Finish Line restaurant, a nice little breakfast buffet for a minimum $5 donation to the HRA Backstretch Foundation, which does fantastic work. We're also partnering with them for the golf tournament coming up just this Thursday. Just getting a look on the screen. Looks to be one of the Tim Rycroft trainees in here with jockey Jose Asensio aboard. I think we'll be looking for Really Rallis. Should be coming out. A couple faces that might see us from Assiniboia. Of course, we were chatting about the Manitoba Derby a little bit earlier. We did see Western Warrior out galloping this morning. He was the winner of the Manitoba Derby. Quarry is nominated as well for Jerry Gorno and Henry Witt Jr. He finished second by narrowest of margins in the Manitoba Derby. Now, what do you make of this other Manitoba Derby contender, whose name seems to be up for discussion if you watch a couple different replays? Gethsemane?
I'm going to have to go with Gethsemane.
Gethsemane? Yeah. I think Kirk said it one way over at Assiniboia. I think Matt Dinnerman over at Oaklawn called it something different. So we just need to, I think, pick a way to pronounce it and commit to it. But it's a little bit of a mouthful, but he's also nominated for Monique Goulet and Cattlemen's Club Stable. He ran third in the Manitoba Derby, had a nice pair of wins, or a nice win, I guess I should say, prior at Oaklawn Park. Irad Ortiz Jr. was his regular jockey, so it's kind of fun to see some of those names pop up on our past performance lines.
Yeah, and a very good effort there in the Manitoba Derby as well. We'll be excited for this one to get into the Canadian Derby this year.
I think that might have just been Really Rouse. We'll try to track that one down again, but he's an interesting one in here as well for trainer Cindy Krasner, who of course was based out of Hastings, moved her stable to Assiniboia Downs this year, of course after the unfortunate closing of Hastings Racecourse. We are very pleased to have quite a large BC contingent this year. They've done really well with their horses, but Really Rallis, one of the maybe less experienced in the field, not by too much, though. He's had 5 lifetime starts. 3 of them have been winners, one of them a second place finish. He's coming off of a 5th in the Manitoba Derby, but he won the Derby trial back on July 13th. He faced the older boys in the first 2 starts of 2026 and fared pretty well. He finished second behind Prime Suspect and then went on to win by over 7 lengths. The same connections do also have a nomination in the Dale the Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare in What's Shaken. Cindy Krasner has also nominated that one for the same owner in Dennis Spence. That's another interesting one too. 18 lifetime starts, 5 winners. Of course, the Speed to Spare should be loaded. I think we closed with 23 nominations. That one, of course, is for the older boys. We will see a previous Canadian Derby winner in A Belief in This Livin'. He's also nominated for the Speed to Spare Attack, who was on the Derby Trail last year. Your Manitoba Derby winner last year. He also ran a nice third-placed second over on Manitoba Derby Day. He's also nominated into the Speed to Spare. That's always a super competitive race.
Yeah, one of the highlights of that all stakes pick 4, pick 5, the Dale Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare Championship. Like you said, a lot of nominations. Should be a loaded game for that one.
You know what? Let's talk a little bit more about that pick 4 and pick 5 that you mentioned. Some huge wagering opportunities.
Most definitely. The late pick 4. $50,000 guaranteed. Pick 5, $25,000. We've been hitting that into the last few years, and much more for the pick 4, pick 5 wagers. Haven't been hitting them the last couple of years, but nonetheless, Yeah, with these nominations, should be absolutely loaded next week.
You gotta keep trying, though.
Most definitely. That's the old adage of a horse player. You got to keep trying and take all the punishment and come right back to the racetrack the next day.
Well, we're trying to make it a competitive one, but we'll definitely be doing our studying as soon as those post positions come out on Monday. Speaking of Attack, we will be seeing him shortly on the track. Be coming out at around 9, as well as stablemate Direct Strike. Now let's talk about these two a little bit, because they are, I mean, we were just talking about Attack. He was the winner of last year's Manitoba Derby, placed second in the Manitoba Mile back on August 3rd. He's got quite the ownership line, and a lot of them are on Direct Strike, who is nominated for the Canadian Derby, the only maiden in the field.
Yeah, Direct Strike with Enrico Prescott, who was aboard in the Manitoba Derby, will get the mount if he gets into the 97 Canadian Derby. I think he's going to like the transition to the big track. That's the thing with the Assiniboia Downs, a little bit smaller than our mile track here. But the horses that have been racing down in the States regularly on the mile tracks will definitely like the return to the mile racetrack and only 2 turns to the mile and a quarter.
But it is interesting because Direct Strike is, I believe, the only horse in the field to have run the mile and a quarter of the Canadian Derby. A lot of them have either gone mile 16th, but not a lot have stretched out to that distance before. So that is an edge that he might have. Yeah, so going back to Attack and Direct Strike as well, we mentioned that owner line, which is, you know what, fun to see. I think these horses have probably had the loudest and most fun cheering crowd for any of the races. Great to see partnerships like that as well. It's a really great way to get more involved into horse racing. It can be kind of intimidating. It can seemingly be very expensive to get into. So when you get into those partnerships, I mean, not only does it make ownership a little bit more affordable, but it also makes it more fun to be able to share those experiences and those wins with some of your closest friends.
Yeah, most definitely. And getting some pretty good records on the racetrack for the horses that they have, and always have to bring my magnifying glass to read the ownership line when they're on the post parade, especially for Attack. But Direct Strike, like you said, even more owners for that one.
We talked past Canadian Derby winners and contenders. Of course, I believe in this Livin' is nominated in the Speed to Spare. We're also going to be able to see Uncharacteristic out here shortly. That's a horse who won the Canadian Derby back in, 2022, 21? I think 21. We should have come prepared with this one. But he did win the Manitoba Derby and then came to win the Canadian Derby with Alex Marty. So it's great to see these horses still competing, still thriving. He went over to Assiniboia for a couple starts this year as well. He ran pretty decently, but owned by Ironside Stables, who should mention you should go follow them on Facebook. I believe they've got about 46,000 followers, and they do a fantastic job kind of sharing a little bit of the behind the scenes of horse ownership, about the horse racing industry. We hosted them yesterday. Darla was able to come up and kind of get a shot at what the announcer's booth looks like, our little broadcast booth. So she'll have a couple fun videos for you this week. But she also is the owner on Uncharacteristic. They also had Explode, who was our 2019 Canadian Derby winner. As I say that, yes, Uncharacteristic was 2021. Explode was 2019. Real Grace in the weird COVID Canadian Derby in 2020. Looks like we also might have Stone Vicious out on the track for the Jim Brown barn. I don't think Jim Brown has too many big, bright grays. Stone Vicious has been a fun one. He is nominated and in the Speed to Spare. Got into a little bit of trouble in that last race on August 8th. But he's been a fun horse to watch and also likes longer distances.
Yeah, definitely a very good stayer, which you'll need to have in the 1.25 mile distance. The Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare Championship, so loaded. It's honestly so loaded with all the nominations that Stone Vicious definitely is going to have a run for his money with the group that he could be facing.
And as mentioned, coming in front of us right now is Uncharacteristic for the Rob Van Overshot barn. Your 2021 Canadian Derby and Manitoba Derby winner.
And definitely one of the easier horses to pick out on the racetrack, and has been absolutely racing lights out the last couple of years here at the mile, even after that Canadian Derby performance back in 2021.
Now, like we said earlier, we got to give some credit to our clockers for being able to pick out and identify these horses in the morning. I mean, we get to be here during the race days when they've got their saddle towels on and their owner silks that we're familiar with. It can be a little bit more challenging to pick them out in the mornings, but yes, he's definitely an easy one to spot. Classy older guy now, and it looks like we might have coming in front of us another gray. This possibly could be Stone Vicious. I could be wrong, but still, it's a lot of fun to be able to watch these horses out in the mornings. And I mean, every horse trains differently too. They've got different instructions. A week out from the big races, you know, might be a nice tune-up, get them sharp, get them ready for the big day. A nice gallop out to see if they can go a little bit longer for the bigger distances that are going to be run on Derby Day. Now we're back on Uncharacteristic as he comes into the stretch to finish up his work. You know, we talk a lot about the stakes that are going to be run on Derby Day, but we should have a loaded undercard as well. Like to stack that up with, as we mentioned, lots of great wagering opportunities. A full card usually have about 12 races, but let's chat a little bit more about Canadian Derby Day itself while we wait for a couple more to head out on the track. So we are running a little bit earlier than normal. Doors will open at 1 o'clock. First race is going to go at 2:45 Mountain Time. We'll have some live music as doors open from the Brass Tastics. If you don't have your Derby outfit yet, maybe looking for the perfect fascinator to go with, I don't know, your suit, Dylan, we'll have Jazzy Fascinators on site. She always has a fantastic selection of fascinators. El Chapeau Hat Bar. So if maybe fascinators aren't your style, we'll have some custom cowboy hats. Got some new food vendors, some fun stuff coming up. Of course, all of the races, the fashion, the food, live music from the Audibles will be in the casino following live racing. And you know, if you've purchased your tickets, you can also redeem your wristband for $5 in free play in the casino. Should also mention, we've talked a lot about next weekend, our Canadian Derby, and the Friday card before. We also have live racing today, which we should acknowledge, starting at 4:45.
Yeah, 9 race cards starting tonight with a couple of quarter horse stake races, Alberta Stallion Stakes on the card tonight. And it was a good Friday night of racing last night, and no harm, no foul done, and some good payoffs in the back half of the card. Should be expecting the same thing tonight for the 9 races starting at 4:45.
I'm hoping at least this side of Century Selections is a little stronger today. It maybe wasn't my best day yesterday. But that's horse racing, right?
Most definitely, and we're just getting all the X's out of this weekend before we get them into the next weekend here. Hopefully a lot of check marks for our top wagers, and definitely looking at the workouts maybe might help with your handicapping, as we've seen a few horses on the track this morning.
An Anderson Ward trainee just passing in front of us here. Of course, Anderson Ward had kind of a fun story last year for the Canadian Derby. Fancy like that being his Derby contender for Theo Ward. He was the youngest owner in the Canadian Derby last year at 11 years old. Getting a look at this pair coming back from a gallop on the outside. Chestnut with the white saddle towel does appear to be one of Barb Head's Century Casino Oaks nominees. Unfortunately, I can't quite see the face right now, but I'm going to assume that might be Promise to Win. She also has Sunny Wishes, both nominated for the Century Casino Oaks. Barb Head's no stranger whatsoever to Canadian Derby Day, having won with August Rain, A Belief in This Livin'. Of course, she had, we were mentioning a little bit earlier with the Northlands Distaff, I think maybe 4 in a row for Infinite Patience. We are pleased to have her in her full barn-based out of Century Mile this year. This one appears to be Promise to Win. I believe Sunny Wishes has a big white face on that one, but Promise to Win, a 3-year-old Sun Gold filly out of Touching Promise. Very successful stakes mare in herself. Broke maiden 2 starts back on July 17th. Very nicely. Came back to a 4th place effort. Pretty wide in that trip. Hasn't gone too long yet, though. 7 furlongs being the longest, and will be stretching out to the 1 1/8 mile for the Century Casino Oaks. I believe we will see Sunny Wishes working a little bit later. So again, this is Promise to Win coming up. Unless they're deceiving us with the saddle towel, but that is one of our Century Casino Oaks identifiers to help us pick those horses out. Amadeo Perez is aboard. Again, he hit 1,000 career riding wins yesterday. We've got a couple jockeys from Hastings this year, and honestly, our leaderboard is so tight this year.
Yeah, one of the more surprising jockey leaderboards they've had in the last couple of years. Usually we have a runaway winner, but the top even 10 riders are only separated by maybe 8-9 wins. And like you said, the presence of the Hastings riders, trainers, owners definitely making their mark here at the mile this year.
And we've talked about the BC ones. We talked about some of the Manitoba horses as well, and they honestly stole the show last year. Of course, our Century Casino Oaks winner, Welcome to Hollywood, was, I believe, Jared Brown trainee. And then our, the Princess Margaret, the 2-year-old filly stakes went to another Manitoba horse. So they do adjust very well to the Century Mile track. And we're getting a look at Direct Strike on the screen right now for trainer Craig Smith. Enrico Prescott is aboard. We've been chatting about this one a little bit this morning, and now we do finally get to see him out on the track. There he is back on the screen. Direct Strike is the only maiden in the field, meaning he has not won a race yet. He has come close. He's got 2 second place finishes, a private purchase out of the States. He's been running at a couple different tracks, but most recently Churchill Downs, and then he came up to Manitoba for the Manitoba Derby where he ran 4th.
Pretty good bang up, 4th at that, the Manitoba Derby. Coming from way out of it, one of the horses that was heavily bet in that race. Direct Strike can get into this one for the 97 Canadian Derby. I think will be heavily bet again, especially off of those Steins Maiden special weights, a couple of second place finishes, runner-up spots there. Even in those races, first 6 career starts before they're joining us north of the border, always heavily bet. And like you said, one of the only horses has gone 1.25 miles as well.
It's kind of interesting to see that he is heavily bet as a maiden against a bunch of winners. So that's kind of a testament to his back class that he's got. But of course, we're talking about Attack 2, so that ownership group is pretty fun in that they do bring up horses for these specific races. You can even just see the class in him. Enrico Prescott, of course, was aboard Attack for that fun Derby trial, or trail, I should say, that they had last year. But a little bit of a mouthful for the owner line. Smoking Gun Stable, Jamie Graham, C&K Holdings, Bob Quast, Terry Quast, Lucky Diamond Stables, Hardball Stable, James Bowder, Robert Bowder, Sunil Trahan, Highfield Investment Group, Douglas Smith, and Bruce Appleyard. You know, some of these owners, too, on Direct Strike have had some success already this year with Rainbow's Pride. Sunil Trahan, one of the owners on Direct Strike, brand new owner, which is really fun to see. And we've joked, had the opportunity to chat with them after their wins in, the Journal, the Spangled Jimmy with Rainbow's Pride. That's quite the start. That's kind of, they joked after the first stakes win. This isn't how it always goes when you get into racing, and then he comes back and wins another stake for them. So I think that's definitely a pretty good hook into the horse race ownership world.
Yeah, definitely one of the more positive things for new ownership, and going into stakes company and winning it like crazy. 2 back-to-back wins and always running up Rainbow's Pride. Don't see him in the upcoming week, maybe on the undercard, but like you said, with the same connections that have some pretty good horses coming up this weekend.
Thinking the distance might be the hesitation for Rainbow's Pride, but I'm sure we'll see him in some shorter allowance fields as well. Direct Strike just gearing up to pick up his work here. As Direct Strike finishes up his work, we're going to find another one of our Speed to Spare contestants just heading out onto the track in Fireman Dan. Getting a look at him on the screen right now. Looks like Brian Boudramsing is aboard. This is another one who came up by way of the States, this one through Turf Paradise. Was an $8,500 claim, but has sure made his mark at Century Mile this year. He ran second, a very close behind Sunbird in the Century Mile handicap back on July 13th for Jason Coney. It's nice to see him with a horse like this. They'll be working in company together. I believe that's either in or in the way, working with him and Jose Asensio aboard. Looks like they're purposely keeping him off a little bit. We'll see if they let him finish ahead. Nice, comfortable work as they come up to the wire here. It's like a piece of cake. Fireman Dan, of course, for Jason Coney's a 7-year-old gelding by Summerfront out of Our Quiet Hannah by Real Quiet, bred in Kentucky. 51 lifetime starts, 5 winners, 9 second place finishes, and 10 third place finishes. He was a claim from Robertino Diodoro back in February. He's had 3 starts over the Century Mile track so far. The first one was a winning one in allowance, optional claiming level. Did beat some competitive horses in there going the 6.5 furlongs. Jumped up to 7 furlongs, ran third, and then went the mile and did his best work in there. So I'm kind of curious if this one is going to want the extra distance. If you're joining us on track, the little siren can be a little alarming, but that is technically what it is supposed to do, just to alert anybody on the racetrack if there does happen to be a loose horse, but the siren is off, so all is good now. It just gives the riders a heads up to look for any loose horses, anything that's on the track, and make sure that everybody is safe and sound out there. Of course, we do have some excellent outriders in our group. Their job is essentially to be the lifeguards of the racetrack. So if there does happen to be a loose horse, any hazards on the track, if any debris blows out there, the outriders are there to keep an eye on everything, make sure everything is safe and sound. Gonna get a nice wide shot of our beautiful track, that beautiful blue sky, gorgeous weather that we've got today. We're just hoping we can keep that locked in for next week.
Yeah, copy and paste, hopefully,
Exactly.
for next Saturday. And getting that final look at Fireman Dan after his gallop. And not a bad-looking 7-year-old on the racetrack, and one to consider for the speed to spare.
Yeah, the pair of Jason Coney trainees heading back to the barn. I believe our break will likely be around 10 o'clock today. We do have breakfast in the finish line from 8:30 to 10:30. So if you do happen to be wandering in, joining us for morning training this morning, you can head upstairs to the Finish Line restaurant. Minimum $5 donation to the HRA Backstretch Foundation gets you a nice little breakfast buffet. I'm really hoping somebody brings it up our way. I feel like I can smell the eggs from here. That being said, I think our break might be coming up a little sooner than I thought. Looks like we will be taking a little break in the training now. The tractors will head out, groom the track, make sure everything is nice and smooth for our next set of works after the break. We'll be back with you once that track reopens. Again, this is our Canadian Derby preview morning, so we're getting a look at some of the Canadian Derby and the stakes undercard contenders. The $200,000 Grade 3 Canadian Derby is going to run on Saturday, August 22nd, along with the $100,000 Century Casino Oaks for the 3-year-old fillies. The $100,000 Dale the Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare Championship will be for the older boys. And the $75,000 Northlands Distaff for the older girls. Along with many more races on the day, as we can only assume the entries and post position draws will be taking place on Monday. So they'll draw the 4 major stakes races Monday evening. Doors open at 5:30. We'll have some live entertainment from Quinn River. Post positions draws will start around 6 o'clock. We do it kind of fun. The Derby and the Oaks will be a pick your own post position. So it will be a randomized draw for the horse, and the connections will be able to get to pick their post positions. Of course, the earlier you're picked, the more post positions you get to choose from. So that'll be a fun one, and that'll set up our fields. And we've got the golf tournament coming up on Thursday, just over at Red Tail Landing. We've got a nice view of the golfers this morning up from the booth. And then, of course, our Friday racing, too. We don't want to forget about that, 6:15. We got some good stakes action there, too, eh?
Yeah, the 2-year-olds absolutely setting the stage for the weekend next Friday with the AQHA Challenge Championship for the Quarter Horses, Princess Margaret Stakes, the 2-year-old Thoroughbreds and Canadian Juvenile Stakes, and some loaded nominations for those races as well.
We'll just take a quick break now for track maintenance, and we'll be back with you shortly. Good morning again, and welcome back to our Canadian Derby preview morning. The track is open after a little maintenance break, and we're jumping right back into it, getting a good look at the undefeated Chi-Chi Time right now.
Yeah, what a Century Mile debut it was for Chi-Chi Time. Went off as the near favorites, or actually went off as the favorite in that race last out, where she was going against some of the tougher horses here at the mile, and she honestly, post one, just cleaned them right up.
Well, in an interesting fashion as well, the notes on that running line say equipment issue. Essentially, she ran a little blind. The blinkers came off in the gate a little bit, so she's still, without not much eyesight, managed to get to the winner's circle. You'll see those blinkers are on her right now, nice and secure as she picks up her work here, coming around the turn into the stretch. Again, she'll be one to rival Big Hug in the $75,000 Northlands Distaff. Looks like she's got jockey Kamal Santo back aboard. She's been an incredible filly. She had a really strong 3-year-old campaign, and then to face the boys and older for the first time and still hang on the way that she did really just solidified that she is that girl.
Yeah, no doubt. A perfect 5 for 5. You're getting a good look at that stride she has. And she's got 5 wins, and she's won by an average of over 5.5 lengths. So just that Century Mile debut was definitely a testament to her running style after beating the likes of Rainbow's Pride, who we talked right up, and Sunbird, who was the stakes winner here at the mile.
She's got a beautiful long stride as she gallops out pretty comfortably. She's gone the mile in a 16th twice, the Hong Kong Jockey Club and the CTHS Sales Stakes at Hastings. And she's going to do a mile and 70 yards in the Northlands Distaff, so not much of a problem at all. We're also going to take a look at another Canadian Derby contender. Those saddle towel colors are quite familiar. This is Need the Purse coming in for Robertino Diodoro, Charles Garvey, your owner. Pretty easy to identify, one of the 2 grays that are nominated in the Canadian Derby. Of course, Robertino Diodoro, I believe it's win number 6 he's looking for in Canadian Derby wins. He won last year with Take Charge Tom. Now you look at Need the Purse. Horse who does have some early speed in the running style as well. The 2 lifetime wins have been very convincing. I won at Turf Paradise back on April 28th by over 7 lengths. Won by 6 lengths in the maiden breaking win. Even that second place finished 12 lengths behind Independence Rise, who I believe went on to win the Turf Paradise Derby. So definitely up against some tough company coming right in front of us, crossing the wire here. Three-year-old colt by the Factor out of Silver Take Charge. Again, that's Robertino Diodoro trains, Charles Garvey, your owner. Again, Need the Purse, just finishing up that work, did run in the Count Latham back on July 24th as a first start at Century Mile. Ran 3rd behind Tism and Big Curl. Going the mile in a 16th. now we're getting a look at Son of a Ghost, the Gonzalo Anderson trainee. Admittedly, we did mix this one up a little earlier, but we have confirmed this is him. He's going to be working in company. I believe with Who's That Baby, who will be one of the potential distaff runners. You'll see a nice set of workers coming in front of the apron now. Son of a Ghost on the inside.
Now he's on the rail going down the backstretch.
And getting a look on your screens now. We've talked about him a little bit this morning. That is Attack, last year's Manitoba Derby winner. He just went over to Assiniboia again for the Manitoba Mile. He does seem to benefit pretty well from disqualifications when he's over there.
Yeah, it was third place finish, ultimately put up to second place finish there at Attack. We've seen the money's enclosure here at Century Mount already this year, and maybe one of the hometown heroes possibly for this year's running.
Enrico Prescott is aboard for the work and will likely be aboard for the ride as well. Of course, last year's Derbies were a little bit of a controversial one, call it. Take Charge Tom did win the Canadian Derby, but was disqualified from the Manitoba Derby last year. Crossed the wire first, but an inquiry didn't work out in his favor, but it did in Attacks. He was moved. He nothing to take away from. He ran fantastic, was placed first in there. Went on to run in the BC Derby as well last year. And speaking, of course, of the Speed to Spare, the Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare, that attack is nominated in. We were talking about Need the Purse earlier. Robertino Diodoro, trainee for the Derby. Diodoro also looks to run Go Go Boss in the Speed to Spare. This one we haven't seen yet. It will be his first start at Century Mile, but he did cross the wire first in the Manitoba Mile, was disqualified at place 4th, but another interesting one who comes to us by way of the States. I chatted a little bit earlier this morning as well about Ironside Stables, their social media presence. If you are on Facebook or Instagram, recommend following Lucky Diamonds as well. They do a great job covering their horses, kind of following along on their journey as well. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They're part of the large ownership group on Direct Strike, on Attack. Got a couple partnerships along, and like we were saying too, it's a fantastic way to get involved in horse ownership if you're not really too sure how to get started, or maybe don't have the budget to own on your own. The syndicates, the partnerships are a great way to go. So much fun to be able to share those experiences with friends, with family. Chatted a lot about the stakes that we've got coming up on Canadian Derby Day, but that's not to overlook our Friday card next week as well. We do have some 2-year-old stakes. We also have the AQHA challenge final. That's always a really exciting quarter horse race. But we've got two 2-year-old stakes for the fillies and for the boys. The Canadian Juvenile will be for the 2-year-old boys, whereas the Princess Margaret will be for the 2-year-old fillies. We're going to get a look at a couple of our Canadian Juvenile contenders on the track today as well. Nominated for the Canadian Juvenile is Back in Town for Tim Rycroft, Centea for Milton Palma, Cowboy Now for Gonzalo Anderson, who should be coming out shortly. Let's Get Rowdy from Rob Van Overshot, and Mexican Lucky for Mel Snow. Midnight Mover for William Leach, who should also be out on track shortly. Wicked Grandpa, who we just saw run yesterday for Jim Brown, and Woodrow, another Tim Rycroft trainee. I think we're getting a look on your screen right now at a Midnight Mover, a 2-year-old by FedBiz out of Anstrom. This one is nominated for the Canadian Juvenile. First-time starter, hasn't had any races yet. William Leach is the trainer. Of course, we know that name very well in the quarter horse scope.
Yeah, most definitely, and a 6-furlong sprint still could get the job done with Midnight Mover. Decent workouts coming into possibly his first career start. Alexander Marty is aboard this morning.
And there is Midnight Mover passing in front of us. This one did go through the Alberta sale just last year. Of course, the CTHS Alberta sale is coming up on, I believe it is September 18th at Westerner Park in Red Deer. It's always a fantastic sale that they put on there. It's kind of fun to see who your future champions might be, and even to see some of the first crops of some of these mares that we might have gotten to see at the races. Of course, Anstrom is one of them who we did see at Century Mile. Midnight Mover was bred by KRT Stables, was just over $11,000 purchase out of the Alberta sale. It's kind of interesting to look at the nominees for the Canadian Juvenile. Quite a few BC breds in the nominations. Back in Town, Centea, Cowboy Now, all BC breds. Let's Get Rowdy, Kentucky bred. Mexican Lucky, BC bred. Midnight Mover, actually the only Alberta bred nominated for the Canadian Juvenile. And we just watched the gallop of Midnight Mover, one of your Canadian juvenile nominees. And now we're getting a look at another nominee for that field, at Cowboy Now, being ponied by trainer Gonzalo Anderson. Cowboy Now is a 2-year-old gelding by Counterforce out of Majestic Skyline. 2 lifetime starts. That first one was a winning one, breaking the maiden first out by over 3 lengths with Antonio Whitehall, who was aboard from Assiniboia for both of those races.
Yeah, one of the horses we do see with experience in the Canadian Juvenile nominations, and like you said, going away winner for the maiden special weight win. And after hopping at the start of that 5.5 furlong sprint, last out, lost all chances in the kindergarten stakes, but maybe a rebound performance in the Canadian Juvenile, an extra 16th for Cowboy Now to work with.
Will be worked today by Dane Nelson. We were chatting a little bit earlier today as well about how close our leaderboards have been this year. So just taking a quick look at our leading jockeys. We were saying we've got a couple new faces who moved their tack into here after Hastings unfortunately closed, and they've been pretty competitive. We mentioned Amadeo Perez had a three-win night yesterday, hitting his 1,000th win. Jose Asensio leads the jockeys right now, 26 wins. Enrique Gonzalez follows with 21, tied with Kamal Santu, who's also got 21 wins. Antonio Reyes and Brian Boudramsing tied him third with 20. Dane Nelson is sitting there with 18, so they're very close together. Again, inside on this one is Cowboy Now, the red cap, Dane Nelson aboard. Keeping his nose ahead at the finish. Again, the Canadian Juvenile is going to run Friday, August 21st. We'll also have the Princess Margaret Stakes. That one is for the 2-year-old fillies. Canadian Juvenile for the 2-year-old boys.
Probably directly made.
And as Cowboy Now finishes up his work, again, the 2-year-old is trained by Gonzalo Anderson, who is your current leading trainer. Getting a look at him on the screen right now with the pony, so he'll be there to pick up Cowboy now after that work. You'll often see that while you're watching the morning training. The pony's out on the track. They do usually offer some kind of guidance for some of the horses, helps them get out to their work, keeps them calm so they're not using too much energy before they get out there. You'll see kind of escorted Cowboy now out for a little bit. Dropped him off, let him go do the work, and he'll likely meet him back up, take him back to the barn. Beautiful Palomino that he's aboard. A lot of our ponies do happen to be off-track thoroughbreds as well. Sometimes after they finish up their racing career, they go on to second careers, third careers. We were talking a little bit earlier about one of the other ponies out here who is on his third career, but of course, after these racehorses finish up their career, they're super valuable, and we are excited to have the Alberta Thoroughbred Aftercare Society with us today. They've got a really fun promotion going on around Derby Week. They've got a virtual Derby, so they've basically taken, by nominations, or votes, I guess you could say, a bunch of previous Canadian Derby winners, and they're putting them against each other for the ATAS Virtual Canadian Derby. So they are taking donations. Every donation helps support the Alberta Thoroughbred Aftercare Society and their mission of providing rehabilitation, retraining, sanctuary, and adoption opportunities for retired racehorses. So beginning today, the Virtual Canadian Derby officially gets underway. They are set up here, so if you are with us on track, make sure you pop by the racing entrance. They've got it all set up. It's $20 donation buys you 1 furlong, moving your horse one step closer to the finish line on the interactive race board at Century Mile. Again, it's set up today. We'll have them here throughout the week as well, but a fantastic organization and a really fun promotion. So if you've got any favorite past Canadian Derby winners, you can root for them, and all for a great cause for the ATAS Virtual Derby and that support of Thoroughbred Aftercare. They're such incredible animals, so even if they finish up their race career, they can go on to be jumpers, trail horses, barrel horses. They're incredible animals, so we are happy to have the Alberta Thoroughbred Aftercare Society with us today. You can find all of the information on their Facebook page as well, and make sure to donate and support a fantastic cause. Getting a look at 2 Willow Creek Farm horses. Just coming back from their morning. We also should extend a congratulations again to Michaela Edwards. Just last weekend, she got her very first training win. Of course, she's a large part of Willow Creek Farms, who was last year's leading owner. Just finishing up a work on your screens right now. It's a chestnut filly, 3-year-old filly. Life is life. Now, we have talked a lot about, all of the stakes horses and everything. This is a non-starter, so maiden hasn't ever raced before. But those horses still have some pretty cool stories too. We see that so many times throughout the backside as well. So whether they're, big stakes horses or non-starters, every horse is special back there. And this one has a really cool story. She, again, hasn't raced before, but this is one that was very special to the Lucky Diamonds team. We're happy to have Carrie and Jay, as well as their daughter Madison, with us today. They are part of those ownership groups that we've mentioned on Attack, on Direct Strike, and this is a really special one to them. So this is one that Carrie's brother bred. They bought back out of the CTHS sale after he passed away. Highfield, Craig Smith, Lucky Diamonds, and Madison Freeman all are part of Life is Life. I believe they call her Beefcakes in the barn, but we'll be looking forward to seeing this one get her first lifetime start. Again, she's still new to it, still a maiden, but even though she hasn't won the big stakes races yet, still has such a special story. So it's always fun to hear about some of the backstories on these horses. You never really know until you get to meet the people and hear about them, find out all about where these horses come from, the breeding, the work that goes into it. Just to get a horse to the races is an accomplishment in itself. Lots of hard work and effort goes into just getting them through all the morning trainings, getting them used to everything, getting them through the gate. So what you see in the races is a long time in the makings, but here is life is life. Keep an eye out for her beefcakes. A great story there. Again, you can follow Lucky Diamonds on Facebook, on TikTok. They do a great job introducing racing fans to their horses, getting to know them, and a little bit about what goes into being a racehorse owner and the fun that is cheering for your horses and sharing that experience with your friends, with your family. Just some really cool stories and people that we've got going on here. Now we'll be looking for another contender in our Century Casino Oaks. We're chatting a bit about Promise to Win a little bit earlier. Another one of Barb Head's trainees, Sunny Wishes, will be out here this morning. And as mentioned, for the $100,000 Century Casino Oaks, we're getting a look at another Barb Heads trainee nominated. Sunny Wishes. Century Plaza Stables is your owner. She's a 3-year-old filly by Sun Gold out of Chrissy by Pop Artist, bred in BC by Dino Condolenios. Very chromy, as we say, chestnut, big white face on this one. She's had 5 lifetime starts, 1 win, 1 second place finish. 3 of those starts have been at Hastings last year. Her first out was a winner, winning by over 3 lengths behind Magic Molly, who is also nominated. Came back to run second in there in the Sadie Diamonds, 4th in the Ascot Grad against the boys. She hasn't won at Century Mile yet, but she made the debut back on June 6th, going 6 furlongs, finished 5th behind a couple powerhouse horses, Playful, What a Force. Came back into the Sonoma and the stretch out to a mile, so we'll see if she can handle the extra distance today. Of course, Barb looking to send out both Promise to Win and Sunny Wishes.
Wasn't a bad outing in the Sonoma handicap. Last out 5-1 money at Gaunt as the second favorite behind Playful, but couldn't sustain the rally in the late going, but she had to do it off of the pace. Was up to Sheriff 4th despite being passed by rivals lanes. Sunny Wishes did good rebound in the Century Casino Oaks with a better trip.
Also nominated for your Century Casino Oaks, BB Beth for Tom Rycroft. Bartender for Jerry Gorno was your Manitoba Oaks winner. Looks to ship over here. Another horse who has been racing regularly in the States, was a $30,000 claim before coming up this way. Daewoo for Jim Brown, also nominated. Evolution, another Assiniboia shipper, ran second in the Manitoba Oaks and won the Jack Hardy by over 11 lengths. We'll look to ship over here. Golden Goose, another Tom Rycroft trainee. Highway 49, your 2-year-old filly of the year. Magic Molly for Mel Snow. Playful, we chatted about earlier, for Gonzalo Anderson. As mentioned, Promise to Win, Sunny Wishes. 66 for Dave Nicholson, also nominated into the Century Casino Oaks. And to round out your nominations, What a Force for Tim Rycroft. This one she's a very speedy type. That's going to be your pace element in the Oaks. Did run second in the Chariot Chaser, but went over to Assiniboia and won the Chantilly Stakes pretty comfortably. And again, that's Sunny Wishes on your screen, picking up the work. Amadeo Perez is certainly trying to keep this one in hand. It's very strong at the beginning of this work. Let's see how she finishes. As Sunny Wishes gallops out from her work, that was one of your potential Oaks contenders. We're going to jump over to another Speed to Spare possible contender, that is Go-Go Boss for Robertino Diodoro. 4-year-old gelding by Street Boss out of Go-Go Lolo, bred in Kentucky by CJ Thoroughbreds. There he is on your screen now, ridden this morning by Daniel Garcia. Go-Go Boss is owned by Rick Weiss, Clayton Weiss, Lana Weiss, R6 Stables, and Norm Tremblay. $18 lifetime starts for Go-Go Boss. 4 winners, 6 seconds, 2 third place finishes coming down the lane right now. Looks like he's got lots of horse left. This is an interesting one. Like mentioned, did run in the Manitoba Mile, crossed the wire first by over 4 lengths, but was disqualified, placed 4th. Does seem to have some early speed. Has won on the lead before, but also shown the ability to have a nice stalking trip. Has been running a mile for the last few races. Did go a mile and a 16th, ran second in allowance 40,000 level down at Remington. Theodoro has seen success in the Speed to Spare as well. I believe he won it a couple years ago with another Canadian Derby winner, Great Escape. And a reminder again, too, while we are talking all things Canadian Derby, we still do have races today as well. We had a great Friday evening last night. We've got a beautiful day for the races today. 4:45 Mountain Time start time. A couple quarter horse stakes to kick us off. We will be seeing a couple of the nominees for the Century Casino Oaks actually running today, so we'll be curious to see if any of them run back or if they just opted for the races today. Does look like the majority of our workers have come through this morning already, but we do appreciate everybody for joining us today for our Canadian Derby preview. We had a good look at a couple of the possible stakes contenders for next week. Delicious breakfast in the finish line today, so thank you to everybody who joined us, whether you're on track with us or if you're watching along on our YouTube feed. We will be back at it, of course, today for the races, and then our post position draws are going to be taking place on Monday the 17th. Doors open at 5:30. The draws should get underway at 6 o'clock. We'll have live music from Quinn River, and we're going to be drawing all four major stakes that day: the $200,000 Grade 3 Canadian Derby, the $100,000 Century Casino Oaks, $100,000 Dale the Colonel Saunders Speed to Spare Championship, and the $75,000 Northlands Distaff. As soon as we get those post positions, we're going to start the handicapping. Why, Dylan? We need to make some money.
Yeah, pick 4 and pick 5 that are all included with some of those post position races that we will draw, like you said, Monday, and hopefully the weather sticks out for tonight. It's been a beautiful morning thus far, and hopefully for 4:45 it continues to stay the same.
Absolutely, and all the way through next week as well. And post position draws Monday. We've got the golf tournament is coming up on Thursday at our neighbors Red Tail Landing. That's in support of the HRA Backstretch Foundation, a fantastic organization, very important organization at that. And we'll have live racing on Friday the 21st with 3 stakes races and Canadian Derby Day. Tickets are required for Canadian Derby Day itself. Every other day admission is free, but tickets are available on Show Pass. There are still some available, but make sure you get them early. General admission will be available at the door. Well, thank you again for joining us for our Canadian Derby preview morning. It's been fantastic, beautiful weather, great horses, and we're going to be back in just a couple hours.
Yeah, definitely circled a few of those workouts here this morning and getting a good glimpse into next week's, hopefully, potential runners. Like you said, beautiful Saturday is just getting underway. And we thank you again for joining us for the Derby workouts this morning.
I'd also like to thank our clockers right next door as well. Huey Houston, Rob Kingston, Tyler Walker, who have been helping pick out the horses, relay them our way. It's a little bit more challenging during the mornings, but it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you to everybody for joining us. Again, keep a tab on our YouTube page. We will be live streaming the post position draws on a Monday. Thank you again for joining us. Have a great rest of your day.